Mr. Garagna.
So you're going first.
Oh, yes. Bonjour et bienvenue tout le monde. J'aimerais commencer.
Hello and good evening, everybody. Welcome to all of you. I would like to pay tribute to the nations of Mohawk and Manizaki and all the First Nations in this area. The same ways that we have the same ambition for the High Ambition and Coalition, we have mandated ourselves to preserve the nature and to reverse a trend in terms of biodiversity loss. So you have to understand that to get to a consensus to conserve 30% of land and oceans by 2030, we will need the involvement and commitments from all the countries in order to reach those objectives, and the evidence are undisputable, and that we are to do something drastic. Nobody is different. We're all dependent on the same planet, on the same nature, and the same biodiversity who unites us all. As
The entire world is watching. The world's youth and people around the globe are counting on us. They expect governments of the world to act together on their behalf. Together, we are working to make Montreal's Nature Paris moment. The time is now. We must act together, and we must act decisively. We are calling on all countries to unite around the 30 by 30 initiative. 30 by 30 and halting and reversing is our 1.5 degrees. And Canada knows that can't happen without sufficient resources in every country in the world. As we have heard loud and clear the need for support. And yesterday, we took a big step forward with a statement of support from many partners. But that is also why we will be doing an announcement today that will bring Canada's contribution to international biodiversity financing over $1.5 billion. We know now, I would now like to turn it over to my dear friend and counterpart, Lord Zach Goldsmith, British Minister of Overseas Territories, Commonwealth, Energy, Climate, and Environment. He has been an incredible driving force into this conversation, and for that, we are eternally grateful. Thank you very much. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you so much, Stephen. And thank you, Canada, for hosting us and for pushing at every opportunity for the highest possible ambition. And it is wonderful to see this show of support from ministers of the High Ambition Coalition countries, and to demonstrate how much political will there is behind getting this target over the line. And it is essential that we do get this target over the line. The science couldn't really be clearer. We're degrading the environment at a rate that the world simply cannot sustain. And while we may not have found the precise way to value natural systems in our economics, despite our dependence on those natural systems, there is no mistaking the costs as those systems fail. The corals and mangroves that provide breeding grounds for the world's fish that we all depend on, protection for coastal communities, the forests that absorb so much of the carbon that we're emitting, as well as providing the rainfall that makes farming possible. Now, right now, here in Montreal, we have a once-in-a-generation opportunity and a responsibility to agree measures globally to put the world on a pathway to recovery this decade, to reconcile our lives, our economies, our businesses, our politics with the natural world on which we depend. And the 30 by 30 target is a crucial part of that. The science supports it, the people everywhere are demanding it, and the political will to deliver it is rapidly growing. We have 116 countries now signed up to this target. We're strongly urging other countries to join us. We cannot afford to leave Montreal without banking this commitment, because without it, we cannot realistically turn the tide this decade. And I believe we will agree 30 by 30 in Montreal. And as we do, we must remember, as Stephen has said, that it cannot be delivered without those who are already protecting the natural world on our behalf. 80% of the world's forest biodiversity is in lands that are controlled by indigenous people. And that is not a coincidence. They must be in the driving seat as we deliver 30 by 30. I want to thank you for coming. Thank you to my colleagues for all of the ambition that they're showing. And I'm thrilled to be able to pass to my friend, Franz Tattenbach from Costa Rica, one of the leading countries in the world when it comes to sustainability. Franz.
Thank you, Lord Goldsmith. It's a big opportunity. The 30 by 30 is a commitment, but also is an opportunity for the world where people and nature coexist in peace and benefit from each other. We are at a decisive moment. The world has the eyes on the results of this COP and on the leadership capacity and political and technical dialogue and consensus building that we, the ministers and head of delegations, have to approve an ambitious post-2020 global biodiversity framework. We have just come from a meeting of the HAC steering committee where 14 ministers have come together to collectively commit to implement the 30 by 30 target. The HAC will provide a concrete tool to support HAC members to implement the global biodiversity framework and the 30 by 30 target. We are now 116 and growing. We have decided to create a secretariat that will provide assistance on continuing mobilizing at the highest level the 30 by 30 and its implementation, centralizing tools, methodologies, and trainings to become one-stop shop on protected areas and OECMs, and matching available funding with concrete projects on the ground to implement. That's where we're very happy to announce. Pass now to Minister Guibault, Minister of France. Sorry, I forgot about it.
Thank you, Franz. Dear ministers, dear colleagues, dear friends, it is very encouraging to see all the work that has been accomplished since UK, Costa Rica, and France launched the High Ambition Coalition back in 2021 at the One Planet Summit for Biodiversity. Tireless efforts have been made, and it's so engaging to be part of this collective effort to raise the ambition of the global biodiversity framework. We are all gathered here today because we need to be the leader of the overall ambition. Without ambition, there is no conserving biodiversity. And there is no halting and reversing biodiversity loss. This morning, parties and philanthropists have committed to make the 30 by 30 happen with several financial pledges. This clear commitment to support implementation must give reassurance to those countries who have been hesitating to support the target so far. Finally, we want to thank everyone who is working so hard to make COP15 the moment we turn the tide. Thank you to all HEC ministers that have been able to come today to show that we collectively stand for the 30 by 30. We call on all countries to unite around 30 by 30.
Sorry, we were supposed to give the lead to the next country, but okay, anyway. Chile, as part of the High Ambition Coalition Steering Committee, reaffirms its commitment to the 30 by 30 target. Back home, we are at 42% protected for our oceans and well on path to protecting 30% of our land. The next step is to have effective protection, and this means administration plans. Effective protection also includes an important role of our indigenous communities and traditional ways of life that protect our biodiversity. 30 by 30 for biodiversity is a condition to limiting global warming to 1.5. And limiting warming to 1.5 is a condition for the protection of biodiversity. So these two concepts should go together, and we should not leave COP15 without this commitment of 30 by 30. Thank you very much. And I forgot to the US, please.
That's the hardest part, the pass off. So hello, everyone. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. I just want to thank folks for hosting the press conference today, and I'm excited to be here representing the United States. President Biden, in his first week in office, committed to protecting and conserving at least 30% of the lands and waters by 2030 domestically. This is called Our America the Beautiful initiative. But we can't act alone. That is why we are a member of this high ambition coalition, and why we are excited to be here in support of the global 30 by 30 ambition and action. The United States is optimistic that we will get the job done here in Montreal and reach a strong, meaningful agreement to protect the health of our planet for people and nature. We look forward to working with all of you to implement these critical conservation goals at home and abroad over the coming decade. And with that, I will turn it over to the moderator to manage the press questions.
Testing.
Thank you very much. We will take some questions. Please state your name and your media and to whom your question is addressed. And I will invite the ministers to whom the question is addressed to advance to the podium. First question. I will take first row here. Thank you.
Thank you, Regina from China Dialogue. I was wondering how much is the ocean being mentioned in the talk of the GBF? And then given the ocean is like account for 70% of the surface and then also home to 80% of the life on Earth, I was wondering, do you think the emphasis right now is enough? Thank you.
To whom is your question addressed, Minister Guilbeault?
Unfortunately, our dear friend Espen from Norway couldn't make it for this event, but if he was here, he would say that we call our planet Earth, but it's fake news because we should call it oceans. So I don't deserve any credit for that. He deserves all of the credit, but he's right. Obviously, we need to ensure that the protection we commit to is for land, of course, but we also make sure that we are protecting our oceans as well. I'm sure others might want to add something to this.
Merci. Thank you. Next question. Madame ici. Third row, right here.
Thank you, Daisy Dunn, Carbon Brief. This is a question for any minister that wants to answer it. How worried are you that the 30% figure won't end up in the GBF, given that we haven't seen parties address the numerical element of this so far? And you've mentioned that there are parties that are still not on board. Could you elaborate on who these parties are? Thank you.
Ministers? Minister Goldsmith?
Thank you so much, Stephen, volunteering me. Look, we are in the process. We've got time left before the end. Clearly, there are brackets all over the place. There are still disagreements to be resolved. I'm confident, I think we're all confident that we can get this over the line. None of us are complacent. We know that we can't unlock ambition without finance, but we're not going to have enough finance without ambition either. I think that the move made by a bunch of donor countries yesterday to put new finance, significant additional finance on the table, has moved things along. We will see more of that over the coming days. One of the speakers, I forget which, mentioned the philanthropic contribution. We haven't yet had an announcement, but we know that philanthropists are really moving together, galvanizing in order to make a very significant announcement in the next couple of days. So I'm very confident that we'll get where we need to go.
Thank you. Next question. Monsieur en orange, third row.
The gentleman in orange.
Malero, Canada's National Observer. This question is for Minister Guilbeault. I'm just wondering what happened when Canada proposed deleting the reference to Indigenous territory from Target 3. And what is Canada's position now?
As you may know, I'm the co-chair of the GBF contact group with Minister Fouad from Egypt. Canada supports the recognition of Indigenous right. In fact, we embrace it. We've made an historic announcement last week for Indigenous-led conservation, and I can't tell you what will be in the text because we're still working on it. But we are working specifically on that. That is one of the texts we are working on, and Canada supports Indigenous rights. We support reference to UNDRIP as it is in our own body of laws now in Canada. So I'm not sure where this rumor is coming from, but I'm the minister at the table working on the text, and I can tell you that's simply not true. Thank you.
Merci. Next question, right here on front row, black jacket.
Thank you. My name is Elena Cox, and I'm here as a youth representative. And given that part of the 3030 framework is preserving biodiversity for future generations, how will you be using youth and how will you be utilizing youth perspectives in decision making and in the process of implementing 30 by 30?
Thank you. Ministers?
Hi, so I'm talking on behalf of the United Arab Emirates. As you know, we're going to be hosting COP28. We have a Minister of Youth Affairs in the UAE, and we're also committed, of course, to the 30 by 30. So the youth are involved with us in all decision-making processes, also when it comes to choosing protected areas, management effectiveness programs. So for the region, we've got youth involved from policy-making initiatives, etc. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll take next question for Mr. here at the white shirt. Please state your name and your media.
Thanks. Juan Mayorga from Sin Embargo, from Mexico, and part of the Earth Journalism Network. This question is for Minister Franz from Costa Rica. Considering ambition regarding this new global framework, what's the way you see forward to solve the divide in Latin America between those countries who want to water down ambition for the sake of their big agro industries and the others who are proposing and suggesting a more constructive approach?
Well, I hope we can bridge this divide. And Costa Rica is a good example where we have protected our land, grow our forests, grow nature, and at the same time become a very productive, if you wish, agro-industry country. So we have not sacrificed nature in order to increase our productivity in agriculture. We have done it by increasing the output per unit of area, increasing the output per worker, doing new techniques, and now we're moving into a more friendly agriculture as well and painting a better and more connected landscape. But I think what we can say is you can do it without sacrificing it. Costa Rica has become the #1 country in extension of forest in many areas in the tropics, and we are now at 52% natural forest coverage with a mixture of protected areas and other OECDMs. And at the same time, we're #1 exporter of agro-industries in Latin American per capita basis. So there should not be a trade-off between protecting the nature and the aspirations of development.
Thank you. One last question. I have Madame here. Please state your name and your media.
Thank you. Natasha Gilbert from Nature News. You've all come together here to support the 30 by 30 target, but could you come together over some of the other really important targets, like eliminating subsidies and agreeing a timeline to measure progress? This question is specifically for the French and UK ministers. Thank you.
Thank you.
We launched a coalition with 116 countries on target 3. But your question is about global ambition, and it's a crucial question of this COP. On each target, we're trying to build some alliances with one question: what is our collective ambition for biodiversity? And we need to advance on each target, including target 7 on pesticides. We have to advance on agroecological processes, because we cannot have on one end some tiers for species and no real commitments at the end of this COP. And Zach said a few minutes ago, we can't disconnect the ambition and the finance. Everything is connected, and the level of the ambition will facilitate the level of finance.
Merci. Certainement.
So I'll just add to agree with that answer, but I would just say that 30 by 30 is a headline target. But you can't deliver 30 by 30 without a whole range of other things being agreed as well. We're not going to have 30-30 without finance. We're not going to have it unless other countries do as Costa Rica has and break the link between agricultural productivity and land degradation and deforestation. And we're not going to be able to do any of these things if we don't address the issue you raised, which is subsidies. If you think that the top 50 food-producing countries spend around $700 billion a year subsidizing often highly destructive land use, if we were able to shift countries politically so that instead of supporting destructive land use, that money went towards renewal, we'd have closed the finance gap that we've all been talking about over the last few days overnight. So it is an absolutely central issue, and there are pockets of coalitions throughout this high ambition coalition focusing on lots of different aspects of what it's going to take to get to 30 by 30. 30 by 30 is the umbrella, but it's not deliverable without a whole range of other things being done as well.
Thank you. On this note, this is what concludes the press conference. Thank you so much for coming. Merci beaucoup. À bientôt. On va prendre une photo. Nous allons prendre une photo. We will take a picture. Ministers, please stay put. Yeah.